Hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm Ryan in Singapore. Welcome to our mindfulness practice. So, yeah, that's good. Daylight savings is it's something I'm happy that I don't have to worry about or deal with anymore. I mean, those times that did I remember to set my clock so that I wake up on time? These kind of things that showed up back when I had to worry about daylight savings. So it's interesting. Living abroad, just in general. I mean, I think living abroad is something that I kind of recommend for everybody. Like, no matter what your nationality is, like, go live in another country for a year or two. If it's, I mean, obviously it's not possible for everybody. Sometimes, for me, of course, it was dependent on work. Can I find somewhere to work abroad? And I have to say it's just so enriching with perspective, and that's that's a good transition into mindfulness practice, because mindfulness practice does help when it comes to training perspective, and you noticing that, of course, perspective is something that I think we all kind of tend to assume just from the beginning. The first time you see another person, the assumption is that this person has a lot of, there are a lot of things that are similar about this person's life with mine, and that's not always the case. And certainly when it comes to different cultural attitudes, there are things that you cannot learn if you have stayed in one country that you just haven't, just without being like ingrained or immersed in another culture. And of course, learning language is helpful too. But anyway, this isn't the topic today. The topic today is the topic today is about mindful movement. Was it Gene? Different people have been showing up in the group meditation I set up for days. Oh, okay. No, that's good. Definitely, it's good to. I'm happy that things have been able to change around a bit because of daylight savings. So, I suppose for me it's the same time. Anyway, topic today is mindful movement. So, in our practice, I do a lot of still practice. So sitting still is really useful in the fact that there's no engagement of the conscious mind, right? Is that there's no intentional engagement of the mind. So, like, to move, of course, when I move, I'm telling my hand to move, right? Like, there's a me component in that movement. And when I sit still and I do nothing but focus on the feeling of breathing, then that component is completely passive, right? So we're sitting still, just paying attention to breath. And so there is literally nothing to do. And there is nothing that we should be doing in meditation practice. And what we do is use the body as an anchor for the mind, right? So the breathing is something that's happening naturally, that we're not in control of, and we can use that as an anchor to hold the mind in one place, hold the mind at the breath, for example. And you find, of course, that the mind doesn't like this, and that there is a lot of activity going on. The mind wants to be active and wants to think about things and wants to go different places. So I think this is one reason why I never eliminate, no matter how much mindful movement I do, I never eliminate the still practice from my personal practice regime. because I think there's really a lot to be learned in that area. Okay, that said, mindful movement has a very important place in our practice as well. And I think one of the reasons why I spend more time in these sessions doing still practice is because it's my belief, and I do encourage you to leave feedback either here in the chat or in the Ryan's Daily Mindfulness Circle, which is the group that I do still practice because I believe that it's the more challenging practice, that it's the one that there are other resources that many of us have for mindful movement practice, whereas still practice might be just a little bit more challenging, a bit harder to get motivated to do. Why mindful movement? Mindful movement practice is because we're constantly moving throughout our day. I mean, this is probably the primary reason why to practice mindful movement. So because we're moving throughout the day, we may be doing most of that movement on autopilot. We may not be really focused on the movement, or maybe we're doing some kind of movement that is so routine that we don't need to engage whatsoever in thinking about what's going on or feeling the present moment, what's happening, because I'm too busy going, well, this moment isn't important. So because I'm just commuting to work, for example, I don't need to be thinking about what everything feels like. I don't need to be thinking about the sensation of the grip of my steering wheel if I happen to be driving, or the sensation of my feet inside of my shoes. Whereas you find that one of the reasons to practice mindfulness is that present moment awareness, that when we aren't present, a lot of the thinking that we do is automatic. It isn't something that we're consciously in control of. And we end up causing ourselves inadvertently to suffer more, because a lot of our thoughts are related to negative things. So again, it's not about avoidance or denial, our practice, but it is about dwelling on what's here in the present, because the present moment is the only moment that we have. And if we're just walking around and moving without being present, trying to be more present in those moments usually isn't enough. So one thing that we can do is add mindful movement practice into our daily regime. So one great way to do this is do yoga. I don't know what yoga is like around the world. I practice yoga usually 3 times a week, and the place where I go is a yoga studio, right? I mean, it's not a stationary gymnastics studio. It's not a studio where people are there to see and be seen, right? I mean, that's what yoga can be these days. So I would recommend that if you to find a teacher, if you're interested in doing yoga, find a teacher that really does teach yoga in a mindful way. And another thing with yoga is I do find a lot of teachers get into the spirituality of it, and that can turn students off as well. So know that this movement practice is, among other things, to really help us to learn to be present in all of the movement that we have throughout our day, so that we can be mindful, that we can have this kind of seamless mindfulness throughout our day, so that we don't end up, frankly speaking, if you're only meditating on your cushion and you're not meditating out in the real world, then if none of the mindfulness that you're bringing here in this practice is coming out somewhere else, then what exactly are you meditating for? What's the use of doing this practice? This is the primary reason. The secondary reason to do mindful movement is that a lot of people find that mindful movement makes it easier for you to hold your mind in the present moment. That stillness, that not moving is so intense, maybe. I mean, doing nothing can be so challenging in a world where we're constantly engaged in doing things. That still practice, that a lot of participants go, this is crazy, this is unbearable, I can't handle what's going on inside of my mind right now. I need there to be some active component to it. And so this is really the second reason to do mindful movement. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into some practice. So I would encourage you, we're going to do just some very simple mindful movement today. We can do it while sitting down, so you can feel free to continue sitting. So sit comfortably. You can have your eyes open or closed. So let's begin by checking in with the body. One thing we might notice as we check into the body is places in the body where there's tension. So observe the forehead, the temples, the eyebrows. Do you discover any tension here? So again, not trying to make tension go away. Simply being aware of it. And maybe when we become aware of it, we go, oh, aha, there's tension here. It is possible for me to relax. Because, of course, trying to relax can cause us to feel more tension. So just becoming aware when we feel tension in the body. Observing the area around the eyes, the jaw. Are the teeth touching? Or is your jaw tight? Are your teeth clenched? Is it possible to allow the jaw to relax? Let the bottom teeth part slightly from the top teeth. Keeping the lips closed if you can, breathing through the nose. Noticing the shoulders, the back, the chest, the abdomen. And as you notice the abdomen, you might also notice that the abdomen moves as you breathe. Expanding as we inhale, contracting, releasing as we exhale. And so the first thing that we can do when it comes to making some mindful movement is let's have a little bit of control of the breath. So let's take the next few breaths and make them a little bit deeper. So as we inhale, inhaling a bit deeper, exhaling a bit longer. So letting the exhale come out slowly. Inhaling, fully filling the lungs, stretching the body, stretching the chest cavity even, the abdominal cavity. And then as we breathe out, slowly letting the air out. And breathing in, fully inflating, slowly allowing the lungs to fill. Breathing out, letting relaxation come on the out breath. Let's do one more. Slowly, deeply inhaling. And then allowing that air to come out. And being aware, fully aware of the sensations in the body. Also, maybe noticing relaxation in the mind if it's coming. What's happening as we choose to control our breath? So going ahead and letting your breath return to its normal pace, its natural pace, letting the body breathe. And now let's begin to shift our attention to our shoulders. Focusing attention on the shoulders. So what's here now? What's it feel like? Do you have residual tension in your shoulders? How do you know that? Where exactly is that tension if it's there? And so when you're ready, and let's see if we can synchronize this with our breath. So as we take our next inhalation, let's squeeze our shoulders up towards our ears, all the while keeping the attention completely in the muscles of the shoulders. So feeling as we shrug the shoulders up, and now bringing the shoulders behind the body, pinching the shoulder blades together as we expand the chest, bringing the shoulders down away from the ears, stretching out the trapezius muscles, squeezing the shoulders together in front of the body, flexing the pectoral muscles a bit, up towards the ears again. So just letting the breath become natural. Shoulders behind, down, squeezing the shoulders together in front of the body, up, and slowly we're rolling our shoulders backwards. And if you like, you can synchronize your breath with your shoulder rolls. Maybe inhaling as the shoulders come up, and exhaling as the shoulders go down. So the idea here is not to lose any of that awareness. So keeping the awareness completely in the shoulders every moment. And if there was tension in the shoulders, and maybe there still is tension in the shoulders, keeping your attention there so that you can be aware. Oh, maybe this gentle motion is helping to release some tension. The next time the shoulders come up towards the ears, holding them there for a moment, continuing to breathe in and out. And then let's roll our shoulders in the opposite direction. So squeezing the pectoral muscles, shoulders in the front, shoulders down away from the ears, shoulders together, shoulder blades pinching towards the back, up towards the ears again, and then rolling the shoulders forward. And then as I was doing that just now, I noticed something else. The temperature of my body is slowly raising. That, believe it or not, these very simple shoulder rolls are actually increasing my body temperature. So what other subtle sensations can you notice as you do this very simple mindful movement practice? See if you can be completely aware of the present moment, with the primary object of the meditation being the muscles of the shoulders. And now the next time the shoulders come towards the ears, pausing here for a moment. And then on your next exhale, letting the shoulders come down and rest. And you can take your hands and rest them on your knees or in your lap. Just allow your body to come to rest in stillness. Now pay attention to the breath. Can you feel how your breath has changed? So again, even though this wasn't intended to be a kind of exercise, you might notice the pace of your breath is a little bit faster. The body temperature is slightly higher. Now how about the shoulders? Are the shoulders more relaxed, or is all of the tension that was there before still there? Are the muscles warmer? Just taking a moment then to assess what's here now. And now let's do one more simple movement activity. And I'd like to remind you that you just follow along with whatever you're comfortable with. Whenever you want to end the posture, it's up to you. So the idea here is just to notice how things change. So as we breathe in, let's bring our arms out to the sides and slowly up overhead. And then once the arms are overhead, allowing the breath to return to its natural pace. And with the arms overhead, just paying attention to the sensations in the hands, in the forearms, in the elbows, in the upper arms, in the shoulders. Noticing that although the arms are static, are not moving, you will notice that moment by moment the sensations in the hands, the forearms, the elbows, the upper arms are changing moment by moment. Maybe the arms start to feel tired. The shoulders may feel a bit sore. You might start to be tingling in the fingertips. Seeing if you can be aware of all of this. So a lot of times we just kind of jump to that word pain. Oh, this is pain. Is this pain? What is this? What are the sensations that I'm experiencing? The sensations in the fingertips and the sensations in the shoulders are not the same sensation. Moment by moment, things continue changing. And now, on your next exhalation, slowly, with all of your attention in the hands and the arms, lowering the arms down by the sides. Then letting the hands rest on the knees or in the lap. And now continuing to pay attention. Moment by moment, what is changing in the shoulders? What is changing in the hands, the arms? How about the breath? Is the pace of the breath changing? So let's sit in stillness for one more minute before we close practice. And the main goal here of this final minute in stillness is just to pay attention to the subtle changes that are happening in the body after doing this movement. And now, we'll close our practice with 3 rings of the bell. Thanks everyone for joining. How'd it go? What happened? What did you notice? I'll take a look at the chat here. It's nice to see Davey in here, even though it's for a short period of time. Higa says, I've noticed the raised temperature and had to take the jumper off. And so many changes, yeah, tingling body, vibrant breath. It's interesting, right? Maybe some things that are, well, I guess what it is rolling the shoulders isn't really something that seems like, that interesting or that dramatic, right? It seems like it's really small. But you notice when you're paying attention, you find that actually there's a lot going on here. And I think maybe we don't even notice like the transitions from sitting to standing, from standing to walking, the effects that these have on our bodies, and also the effect that they have on our minds as well. And so this is another really interesting thing that we can discover in our mindfulness practice, is this interconnection between the body and the mind, that these aren't two separate things. The mind rises out of the body, right? I mean whatever your belief is about consciousness, it doesn't really matter, because everyone will agree that if something happens to the brain, consciousness will be affected, right? There's no doubt about this. And so not just the way the mind is affected. I mean, the brain is affected by all kinds of different things. The brain is affected by the heart rate. The brain is affected by the breathing. All of these things have an effect on our consciousness. And so this is something very interesting to observe when we're doing our mindful movement practice. And maybe, I'll just link it to another talk, right? It's the 5 pillars of mental health that I use sometimes. One of them is exercise. It's because exercise has an effect, a rather dramatic effect on consciousness. It does change our hormones. It changes a lot of things. And of course, our hormones affect our brains affect our consciousness. And our consciousness probably is not, it's not just about, this entire vehicle, this entire machine affects our consciousness as well. So mindfulness really helps us to see when all of that is being affected, right? Like, oh, wow, shoulder rolls have an effect on my breath, on my body temperature, on my heart rate. Wow, that's interesting. And so this is really, I think, the one of the primary goals of mindfulness practice is just to see, to be aware of all of these subtle changes, because that moment, how equipped am I to deal with that nasty stranger, right? How am I going to react to that crisis? That crisis that I have is going to be, how I react to that crisis has a lot to do with this kind of canvas, this baseline of where we are. And so if we start reacting in a really maybe aggressive way, or in a way that we don't want, it's going to be, without any mindfulness, it's going to be impossible for us to recognize in that moment what's going on, to be able to have any actual impact, to have any control of ourselves. Because that, how can you change something that you're not aware of? And so in that moment, in those moments of crisis, this is really where our mindfulness practice shines. And mindful movement is, again, that's the nice thing about it, is that we're intentionally changing something. And then so we can kind of use this as our little science lab to go, oh, what's going on? Oh, how's my breath changing? How is my heart rate changing? How's my body temperature changing? How's my state of mind changing? Is the state of my emotions changing as well? So all of this stuff is affected by the body and the mind. Heidi shares, a sense of calm in my mind. Thank you for sharing. Karen says, my upper traps and shoulders are calmer. Thank you. Sybil shares, my fingers were warm and tingling. I felt my pulse strongly in my hands. Weight in my arms and hands. Lovely to lower my arms. So relaxing, just resting there. And that's really so interesting too, right? Is like your arms started lowered and ended lowered. But when the transition from here to here feels great, right? Even though this is kind of where we started, but it's kind of like that relief is such a positive feeling. And then this is interesting as well, isn't it? Snap, crackle, pop during the shoulder rolls after I wanted to roll my neck. Thank you, Jean. And you can roll your neck. You don't have to stay still. You can continue your mindful movement after we end here if you like. Tingling fingers, fatigue in arms for arms raised. When lowered, tingling sensation subsides. I found my body naturally taking a few deeper breaths after the movement. Thank you, Jean. It's great to see everybody here. Welcome back, those of you in Europe that the time maybe is more conducive for you now. It's a pleasure to be here as always. Let's close our practice with some well wishes. So follow along if you like. May I be happy and peaceful. May everybody here watching, listening now, wherever you are, I wish you all happiness and peace. May all sentient life here and throughout the universe, may we all be happy and peaceful. All right, thanks everybody. Have a lovely day or evening, wherever you are, or morning. See you next time. Next time we'll talk about why do we end our practice, our movement practice, with stillness. And practice that a little bit. So looking forward to sharing that with you. That'll be 2 days from now. See you then. Bye-bye.